Hello and welcome to Arc Logos Podcast. I am your host, Sherelle Wilson-Morrison, and I'm joined by my two beautiful co-hosts,
Anita Pinto-Young
and Rose Tebere.
And welcome to our listeners. So today's topic, I thought we'll talk about maintaining healthy relationships. A very interesting topic, quite wide, but I thought it'd be great to start off with in terms of how would you define a healthy relationship?
Okay. So a healthy relationship is one where there's balance, there's respect, there's trust, accountability, respect.
Yeah.
Rose?
And I feel a healthy relationship is how you manage and navigate difficulties, because there is going to be conflict. You can't have a relationship without conflict. And how do you manage conflict and disagreements?
Absolutely.
And it's about how you navigate that and manage that in a manner that is helpful and is not going to be too negative and too distressing.
Yeah, and I would say it's also about being comfortable and being able to be your authentic self.
Yes.
A healthy relationship means that as we are sat here today, we can be our true and authentic selves. We don't have to put on a stance or be anyone different to what we know and who we are just to appease somebody. So I would definitely say that would kind of cover within healthy. So interestingly, obviously I'm going to ask now, what would you say in the reverse is what makes unhealthy relationships? Like, what would you define that
Yeah.
as?
It's interesting that Rose said conflict, yeah? Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people have the misconception that if you have conflict, that it means the relationship is unhealthy.
Yeah.
Or that because there's no conflict, then the relationship is healthy. And there are times when there are relationships where there's absolutely no conflict because there's avoidance.
Okay.
And what happens when people are avoidant in relationships is it breeds resentment. So I think it was interesting that you said navigating difficulty.
Yeah.
Because like my dad always said, like, for example, in a marriage, if two people are married, they've both come from very different families.
Yeah.
Very different backgrounds, and it's how do you meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And because of that coming together of different people, I mean, even in a family, when you grow up together, you have conflicts and you're growing up under the same roof, but you have different personalities. Probably going to throw in a few things that my dad usually says. Like, he always says, in a relationship, you cut the cow in the middle. And what he means by that is, how he explained it to me, he said, you're not right and the other person isn't right, but how do you find a middle ground and find a balance? I think Sherelle, you did ask me the question, what makes a negative relationship? So like I said, it's when you have a relationship where there's avoidance. So things come up, but instead of addressing it, you avoid it. And like I said, sometimes people unfortunately think if I avoid the conflict, then that's maintaining peace. But there's an illusion of peace on the outside, but internally there's a lot of turmoil. So it is actually healthy to have disagreements.
Yes.
But then it's how do you have those disagreements in a way that's respectful, where you sit and have the conversation, sit with the difficulty,
Yeah.
talk about the difficult things. But I think the opposite, which is avoidance, is one thing that makes relationships unhealthy. I'm just going to stick with that. And Rose, you can talk about what else makes them unhealthy.
I think holding a grudge
Okay.
can make relationships very unhealthy. And not dealing with that difficulty.
Yeah.
Holding a grudge and having to remind someone of, oh, this happened, you did this the last time, and having that. And I believe what would make it healthy is to talk about those difficult things and put that to rest.
Absolutely.
And start afresh.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. And I definitely think the main theme that you've kind of both touched on is communication. And I would say what makes an unhealthy relationship is if there's no communication, left to misinterpretations, misconstruction of anything, what it may be. I definitely would say that it kind of mirrors to both of what you said.
Yeah.
So would I be right in asking you, do you feel like your relationships in the workplace, so professionally and personal, are the same in terms of how you present yourself in those forums, or would you say they're different?
I mean, there is some difference. I think I've heard people say I don't go to work to make friends.
Yes.
And I think that also is a misconception, because you spend so much time in the workplace.
Yes.
That it's difficult to not form relationships. I think maybe what is difficult is that sometimes when you have people working together, there's a bit of competition
Okay.
and rivalry.
Yeah.
Because I think there is something about being in the same profession with someone. And for some people, it's that whole competition around, you versus me. And if you move forward, does it mean I don't move forward? Yeah. So I think sometimes in some professional relationships, you do have to set those boundaries as a way of protecting yourself. So sometimes your relationships outside of work may be different, because I think within the workplace, whether we like it or not, there are professional boundaries that we have to adhere to. But I think some people may shy away from having relationships in the workplace because of just that fear of the rivalry and competition.
Valid point.
Yeah. And I think having relationships in the workplace is important. It is healthy. And what makes work pleasant and something to look forward to is having good, positive relationships. So it's about, for me, making and building those relationships. Yes, they are professional relationships, but then being able to engage someone, to talk to someone, to communicate with someone involves having a positive and productive relationship. So it's important to build those relationships at work.
Definitely. I think I see elements of my professional relationships in some of my personal relationships. So I actually, outside of work, I've got friends that are social workers. But how were those friendships formed? Within the workplace or when we studied together? And Anita, it's so funny you made the point about people saying, some people, I come to work not to make friends. That was the stance that a few of us had when we went to uni the second time round. Because when we done my master's, the thought was, well, I've made my friends in my undergrad. I just come here to get my qualification, and then that's it. If I make friends, obviously, I'm open to that. It's an added bonus. And if I form relationships, it is. But my thinking was, I'm not staying on campus this time. I'm doing the commute. It's a postgraduate qualification, so I ain't here about making any friends. And I think that if I continued with that stance, it would have disallowed me to have made the friendships and the relationships that I was successful to have made. And I guess what I was going to say, coming back onto that point, Anita, it's important to be open to making new relationships and forming that at any course of your life, really.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's true. And I think we're humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we are social beings. We
Yes.
form connections. We form attachments. And I think particularly if you grew up in a family where you had secure attachments, I think it sometimes makes it easier for you to form relationships. I mean, I think I'm quite a friendly person, I'd
Yes,
say.
you are.
And I'm quite an extrovert. So I do like being around people. And I think sometimes I form relationships easily. That being said, I am conscious of my inner circle. And that's something that I quite protect.
Yeah.
So as much as I talk to a lot of people,
Okay.
I'm quite sociable, I'm quite friendly. It doesn't mean that it's everybody that I'd let into my personal space.
And that's important. We'll come back onto that point. I just want to hear from Rose just in terms of that.
Yes, it's as I said, it's so important to have those relationships, because we are, as you said, we are social beings, and relationships are going to evolve with time, and they evolve naturally. There are some people that you will gravitate to, and there are people who are going to gravitate to you.
Yeah.
Are you going to say, oh no, I don't want to be friends, I've decided I don't want to? But how, it's important to have those connections.
No new friends.
And
so
friends,
before we
yeah.
come back onto your point, Anita, do you think all relationships are friendships?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Why?
I mean, I think a friend is somebody who you would say you can rely on.
Okay.
I think a friend is somebody where you're almost equals. No relationship is 50-50.
Yeah.
But you're equals. You have things in common. You enjoy sharing each other's space. And like I said in the beginning about what makes healthy relationships, it's wanting to know you can trust that person.
100%.
You know, and I think we use the word friendship quite loosely, because everybody wants to have friends.
Yeah.
And so, but I think people have to almost qualify to be friends. Sounds like a hard word.
No.
But I think, it's that whole thing about somebody needs to demonstrate that they're trustworthy, that they're worthy of your trust and your time and your attention. And I think friendship has to be earned.
Yeah.
Nice.
As well as friendship being earned, I think also it's about accepting some of the flaws that your friends may have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's because with friends you've got to be able to be yourself.
Yes.
Be able to, know that if I do this, if I get it wrong, they are going to tell me. And I'm going to accept it. And I'm not going to, I may feel hurt. I may get offended, but I'm going to get over it. Yeah. And I will listen. Yeah. So it's, and also expect the same, that if I tell them or if I got something wrong, they would understand.
Absolutely. And allowing space for banter.
But yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely. And fun.
Yes, have
And
fun.
fun.
Absolutely. So I'm going to come back to yourself, Anita, because you made a valid point about you're careful in terms of who you let into your inner circle. Just want to hear a bit more about that, really.
Boy, Cheryl, next time you're talking, because you're asking a lot of questions.
And I'm loving it.
I think we're trained social workers. We're trained coaches. We have a lot of life experience. And I think to not use that experience would be stupid.
Yeah.
I think wisdom comes with time. And I think my brother used to jokingly say, you assess everybody. But I think there's something, and I saw a meme the other day which said social workers going on a date to complete a psychosocial assessment.
Oh, gosh.
And I think that there's that whole thing about somebody comes into your space. Sometimes we're just so quick to just open the door to people who are unassuming. And sometimes people can put on a mask.
Yeah.
People can pretend. People can want to be close to you for the wrong reasons. But I think for me, it's when I do meet somebody, I'm assessing, are you safe enough to trust with my secrets? Are you safe enough for me to trust with my family? Are you safe enough for me to trust just with my personal relationships? And I think that's something that you only find out through people demonstrating that.
Yes.
So I can't just meet you today and tomorrow we're friends. I don't know you like that. Like, have you demonstrated to me that you're worthy of my trust?
And that's so important that you said that, because I think I've learnt the hard way in terms of beforehand I was quite an open book and I would allow a lot and many people to enter. Yes, I would do my assessment, but my assessment was once you're in, then the assessment process would start to commence. So I'd give people like opportunities until you've proven me wrong. And I think my biggest learning from that was, especially when I tried to mix my circles, because you think you're all friends, they're your friends, so obviously they're going to all get on along with each other. No. Certain friendship circles are better staying into certain sections, whereas others are okay to maybe mingle, but just don't do it, because I'm living proof that I've done that and it wasn't one of the best actions, I could say.
What happened, Cheryl?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I framed myself right under the bus for that one. No, it's just in terms of difference of opinion. So like, I know earlier when we talked about what do we define as healthy relationships, and I talked about authenticity. And I have certain friends that they're a certain way, and I'm not judgmental. They have a certain lifestyle, they have a certain behavior, and for me, it doesn't affect me because that's who they are, that's how they come. However, that's within our friendship that I can accept that. I'm very accepting. Entering that into other friendship circles, they may not be as open to that. And that's obviously where the clash may lie. And because it's not their immediate friend, it's like, well, why do I have to put up with this? I don't need to tolerate that. And that's where, if we say, my experiences have come from that.
Yeah. And that's the thing about, if I have to tolerate you, am I your friend?
Well, this is it.
I think friendships should be something that you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Like if it's I mean, relationships require work, particularly marriages. I think marriages require work. But I think in terms of friendships, if I'm having to work over time just to maintain my relationship with you, I can't be asked to. I mean, I'm not saying there are times because, okay, there are times when your friend is not doing well and you have to be there for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you have to support them and you have to build them up. But I think one of the issues I had earlier on in life was having a lot of one-sided relationships.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yes,
say. Yeah.
Where I was doing a lot of the building up, the encouraging, the supporting. I was a person that people would call if they needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Yes. I have been there.
Because Anita's gonna say the right thing and make them feel better.
Yeah.
And while that's a strength, and I value that, it can be draining because then it becomes one-sided.
Absolutely.
And those relationships are unsafe. And like I said, no relationship is 50-50. Because there are times when you'll be in relationships where you're going through a hard time and you need that support, but the other person is going through a hard. But when 90% of the relationship is characterized by you supporting and building up, and Lord, it's tiring.
It's a lot.
It's got to be reciprocal.
Yeah.
It's got to be reciprocal. It's not just about me supporting you or you coming to me when you need something. It's about giving and receiving. Giving as well. So if someone, for instance, thought about me, called and gave me, something, and not just coming to me when they need something from me. Yeah.
And I guess it kind of puts a difference between it being a friendship and being work. Because think about it, in the work that we do, people are coming, we're zoning in a lot of emotional stuff.
Yes.
They're coming with all the stuff, and then we're just basically helping them to kind of, coach them in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas in our friendships, there may be occasions, like you said, Anita, that we need to kind of be a listening ear.
Yeah.
But if it's 90% of the time, then you have to question, is that a relationship and is it healthy?
Yeah. And I think we will always have mentees. I mean, I always have one or two people kind of in my circle that I know I'm mentoring. And I'm very good at defining those relationships and saying, okay, this is not a friend, this is a mentee, or this is somebody that I'm supporting. So I lower my expectation when it comes to that, because I know that it's more me giving. And even those relationships I have to balance, because like you said, when you're a coach, a mentor, you're somebody with experience, you're quite empathetic. You're somebody who people come and talk to you, and when they're done, they feel better.
Yes.
People latch onto that.
Absolutely.
And there have been seasons of my life where I've been drained because, like you said, there are a couple of people who are just coming to talk or to offload, or you see your phone ringing and you know what it's going to be about. And it's like, I love you, but I love me more. Like I have to love myself, you know?
Yeah. And being a good friend is also about recognizing that someone needs support. My friend needs support.
Yeah.
My friend needs me to reach out to them.
Yeah.
My friend is in a bad way. I need to support her. Yeah. Being able to recognize that and being able to do that without being asked.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're talking about setting boundaries then. From what I'm hearing, obviously making sure we're looking after ourselves as well as not just pouring 100%.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings me on to another question. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions today. How do you set boundaries? And that could be within the workplace and also within your personal space.
I think when it comes to the workplace, I have very firm boundaries. Like, for example, I don't like being contacted about work when I'm on holiday. Like, just let me have my holiday, please. You don't need to be messaging me about work or calling me about work because I'm on holiday. And it can seem rigid for some people, but for me, it's about I need to switch off.
Yes.
Because if I'm constantly having text messages or phone calls or people calling or messaging about work, then I'm not switching off.
Yeah.
And there's some people that I've seen in work who don't have those boundaries. They're on holiday, but they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. Just call me if anything happens. What are you, God? It's like, no, it's we can't, there's somebody recently who left the company, somebody that I look up to. And she said to me, if I can give you any bit of advice, she said, in all of your supporting other people, put on your oxygen mask first and make sure it's on and it's secure. Because she said, if your oxygen mask is wonky you're losing oxygen or it's not on properly. And I think it's in reference to what they see on the flights. You're in a flight decides to go down, put on your oxygen mask first before you can help others. You know, and you can't give an empty cup.
Yeah.
You can't. So you have to set those boundaries to protect your time and your energy.
I love that analogy. I really love that analogy. If you can't look after yourself, how are you going to look after others? You've got to be in a good position, in a good place to be able to, you know, look after yourself first, to be for you to be able to support others.
Definitely. So important, looking after self. And I think we are strong advocates in encouraging self-love and self-care.
Yeah.
And it's only rightly so that we also ensure that we're doing that ourselves. And it's so funny you mentioned the information about looking after yourself first and then helping others. Because I feel like me as a characteristic, as a person, I'm quite selfless. And I had to learn that putting myself first was not selfish. It was actually self-care.
Yeah.
And that was a big piece of learning for me because, like I said, I would always allow people to pour into me, always make sure you're okay and you're okay. But then I never thought about, am I okay? And it wasn't until obviously you're getting close to potentially burning out or you're in a situation and you're like, okay, where are the people that I kind of poured into? You know, it's a little bit of an expectation. You're thinking, okay, I was there for you. You now know I'm in need, and where are you? And it's a tough message, but sometimes we have to have those life lessons.
Yeah.
So how do you create that me time?
Oh, yeah,
How
good
do you
question.
create that me time?
Me time when we're talking about relationships. It's funny, you know, because I'm an extrovert and I love being around people, but I also like my own space.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
No.
So I love being out and about, chit-chatting, talking to people, but I also love having spaces where I switch off and behind closed doors, my door is locked, and I just don't want to be bothered.
Yes.
And that is the time when I refuel. That's the time when I'm praying, seeking
Yes.
God, being refilled, because I have to be full
Yes.
in order to pour out. And I think that's how I look after myself, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And I think for me, it's about doing what it is that I enjoy.
Such as?
Thank you.
Spending time, at times, it's just having that, you know, staying at home, not always going out, staying at home, watching a movie, going out somewhere nice, you know, having that, me time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you'd asked me this question about a year and a half ago, my answer would be completely different to what it is today.
Yeah.
I've had to learn to be still and to be calm. I mean, I used to be that person like Energizer Bunny, here, there, everywhere. I'd have like 4 events in one day. And now I'm thinking about it, I'm tired. Literally, I am tired. I don't know how I managed to do it. I'd have a birthday here, an event here, and it's just because I didn't want to let people down. And it's not been about people pleasing, but it's because I always valued my relationships. And I think for that, my risk of I was tired. I never had time to shut off. And as much as I love having my circle around me, I love having people around me similar to yourself, Anita, I need me time. And there's times where don't call my phone, please. Just send me a voice note. Sorry to anyone in advance that if you phone me and I don't answer, usually I'm out or I'm having me time. And it's okay to say no. This is for me to recharge, to refuel, to just basically get myself back into me mode.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about, you know, boundaries.
Yes.
Setting those boundaries.
Yeah.
I think there are times when if people then get to know that this is her routine at this and that time, it's her me time.
Yeah.
And they will learn to respect that time and to
Yeah.
keep away and just let you be.
Yeah. And it's funny what you said, because I know you mentioned that it wasn't people pleasing. I think all of us do some people pleasing because we're worried that we're going to offend people.
Yeah.
We're worried that we're going to let people down. And so there are people who would call, message, text, reach out because they want this, they want information. And it's like, but if I just keep pouring out, and there are times when I've chosen to not answer the phone. There are times when I've chosen to not respond to that message. There are times when I've chosen to not return that telephone call because I know what's going to come up And,
Yeah.
you know, and you kind of almost feel bad because you feel like you're letting people down. But you have to get to that point where you say, actually, you're letting yourself down if you don't switch off. You're letting yourself down if you don't set those boundaries to protect yourself and your energy. And because you need your energy for your loved ones.
Sorry, I have to do this. I think that is like prime example of healthy relationships, setting boundaries.
Yeah.